Jon Krakauer, Into the Wild. In the book, Into the Wild, by Jon Krakauer, readers embark on a gripping journey with Christopher McCandless, who abandons his privileged life to pursue raw adventures and explore the intricacies of nature. Throughout the book, we examine his upbringing, family conflicts, and the encounters that shaped his journey leading up to the fateful Alaskan Odyssey. Delve into the depths of McCandless's fears, his self-discoveries, and his courage to follow his beliefs, all while uncovering the profound impact he had on the individuals who crossed his path.
The Adventurous Life of Alexander Supertramp. Christopher McCandless, also known as Alexander Supertramp, grew up in an affluent suburb of Washington, D.C., with a willful and adventurous nature akin to his aerospace engineer father, Walt. Hidden family secrets uncovered during a visit to his parents' old neighborhood in California caused Chris to become reclusive and reject his privileged upbringing. He donated his trust fund to charity, assumed a new identity, and embarked on a journey to live a life of raw existence out on the road. Despite appearing calm on the surface, Chris was roiling underneath, driven by an intense desire to escape his past and find true meaning in life. Burres, the first true friend of Chris McCandless. In Jon Krakauer's book, Into the Wild, the story of Christopher McCandless's life is narrated. McCandless was a young man who abandoned his comfortable life one day to trek through the wild, searching for a sense of belonging. One summer day in August 1990, Burres and her partner, Bob, encountered McCandless on their way to California. Jan relates that McCandless took her back to her own son and that during their brief friendship, she could not help but awaken her dormant mothering instincts. Despite his rejection of civilized life, McCandless found a surrogate mother in Jan, who took care of him and had an unbreakable bond with him. McCandless and Franz, an unlikely bond. When 80-year-old Ronald Franz picked up hitchhiking Christopher McCandless, he didn't anticipate the impact that the young man would have on his life. Despite Ron's attempts to convince him otherwise, McCandless refused to give up his nomadic lifestyle. However, the two grew close, with McCandless even teaching Ron how to create leatherwork. When McCandless left for San Diego, Ron insisted on driving him and later drove him all the way to Colorado. Ron was devastated when he learned of McCandless's death and even set up camp in the same spot where McCandless had stayed. This friendship highlights the ability of even the most unlikely pair to make a profound impact on one another. Alex McCandless and Wayne Westerberg's friendship. In Into the Wild, Wayne Westerberg picked up Alex McCandless the hitchhiker, only to offer him a job at his grain elevator later. McCandless's tireless work ethic and natural charm earned him Wayne's admiration, and the two became good friends. Gail and Wayne's mother Mary also grew close to McCandless, who confided in them about his restlessness. Despite Wayne's wishes for him to stay, McCandless left for Alaska to pursue his dream, bidding his farewell to his good friends. Alone in Alaska. Chris McCandless travels to Alaska to live alone in the wild, relying only on his intuition to survive. Although he lives happily in the wild for a few months, he makes errors on his way back to civilization, which ultimately lead to his death. Chris McCandless's dream of being alone in the wild was fulfilled when he started up the Stampede Trail in Alaska. Despite having little gear for a long-term stay in the backcountry, McCandless saw gear as an encumbrance, a barrier between him and the wild. He subsisted on foraged plants and small game for 4 months. McCandless was happy to be there, but he made errors that cost him his life. During his journey, McCandless made the abandoned Fairbanks city bus his home. Although it was hard going, he was content with his life in the wild. Eventually, McCandless decided to leave the bus to return to civilization. However, he miscalculated his exit strategy, crossing the Teclanica River alone, which had already swollen 10 times in volume due to snowmelt. Had he walked upstream or downstream, he would have found easier ways to cross the river. Instead, McCandless decided to return to the bus and wait for the water levels to drop. This delay proved fatal. The book is a story of an individual's pursuit of adventure and his subsequent downfall due to lack of experience, preparedness, and errors in judgment. It highlights the importance of planning and preparedness when venturing into the wilderness. Fatal mistake. This passage describes how survivalist Christopher McCandless died in the Alaskan wilderness. Despite his resourcefulness and resilience, he made a fatal error that cost him his life. He had been gathering and eating wild potato plants, unaware that their seeds contained a deadly amino acid called ODAP. By the time he realized his mistake, he was too weak to hike out and eventually died of starvation. The passage details McCandless's gradual decline, from weakness to euphoria and mental clarity, before he eventually passed away in his sleeping bag. The mysterious death of Christopher McCandless. The renowned book Into the Wild, written by author Jon Krakauer, delves into the death of Christopher McCandless. Krakauer spent years investigating McCandless's story, examining his letters, photographs, and accounts from people who had met him. He believes that McCandless was not foolish or suicidal when he lost his life in the Alaskan wilderness. Instead, he had a persistent drive to find the truth about himself and the world. McCandless's intensified thirst for adventure led him to take dangerous risks and eventually led to his death. However, Krakauer emphasizes that McCandless's death was an accident and not a deliberate suicide. Krakauer himself speaks to the reader, revealing his own youthful adventures and risky behavior, which mirror McCandless's pursuit of his truths. The author reminds us that seeking adventure and taking risks in search of meaning is a natural impulse, particularly among young people. Even historical figures like John Muir engaged in similar behavior, and the author himself climbed mountains alone in Alaska as a young man. This summary highlights the importance of taking precautions when pursuing our desires and reminds us of the natural human impulse to seek truth and meaning. It's a captivating and provocative read that inspires reflection.
As the story of Christopher McCandless unfolds, we are taken through riveting experiences, unforgettable encounters, and the insights gained during his time into the wild. Although many consider his actions reckless, Krakauer implores us to view his life as far more than just careless mistakes. McCandless serves as a poignant reminder of our innate human desire to search for meaning and take risks to feel alive. His death may have been a tragic accident, but his life stands as a testament to the indomitable spirit of exploration and a fierce determination to follow one's beliefs, even to the very edge of existence.